You don't want to be that discount brand. Like our product is too valuable to be a discount brand. We're consumers at heart, and I know it sounds cliche. We definitely are in it for the money because we need a living, but there's certain parts of it that can be easier than expected, and we found that out through doing copious amounts of pre-market launch surveying. We know that's going to be like our complete moneymaker. So for us, it was just kind of like,
we were very intentional with surveying, like, what exactly do men want out of skincare?
Let's focus on quality. Let's focus on learning. Let's be patient, something neither of us are inherently.
There's fucking agencies. Most agencies are dog shit. Let's just be honest.
Yes.
Like,
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to season 2 of Two Ecomm Experts, the podcast of Marketemics. And we're filming right now episode 4, and I'm very excited because we have Kevin and Ben, the co-founders of YoPrettyBoy, a brand that I would call that it's a complete disruptor to our e-com world and e-com market, because these two men have created a product, a single product, that they've completely bootstrapped from absolutely zero, facing the issue that so many young men are having with their skincare routine, and are solving the problem of many men around the US. And they've done it against all of the rivals in the US, all of the rivals worldwide that they're spending billions of dollars on marketing. And they did it, they bootstrapped it, they made it happen. And now they're one of those people that I am so happy to learn from, and I'm sure that you also learn much from them. Kevin, Ben, thank you for joining the podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us, man. We're excited.
yeah, thanks for having us.
For those who still don't know you, what should they know about Kevin and Ben?
Want to kick things off, Ben? We're an open book.
Yeah, for things so we're first-time founders, two best friends from college. We both went to Ohio State. Kevin played football there on the national championship team in 2015. We met freshman year. I quickly became his number one cheerleader, but we used to spend a lot of time, in the dorm rooms when he wasn't practicing or pledging the fraternity while also doing his morning workouts, sitting around BSing about different business ideas that we'd have. And so we've always been super passionate about doing this. Fate would have it that we would end up both in LA to work the same day jobs at the same company on the same team, taking calls from 20 feet away as roommates for about 5 years. Throughout that time, and as COVID hit, the dreams kept going. We've had probably at least 20 ideas that we've actually started work on. But with COVID, Kevin went home to Ohio, where we're both from, took a how to start an e-com brand course. And that was when we kind of really figured out this was the right time. Kevin's someone who has eczema. I used to have really sensitive skin and bad acne that I was super self-conscious of. And so as he took the course, we started kind of leaning into, what's going on in the personal care space. Kevin, specifically with the eczema, had always really struggled to find products that his dermatologist would actually want him to use, or that had the ingredients that would help control the flare-ups. We saw that there was kind of a white space in the market. The main white space was that even though men were kind of changing their buying habits and being more open to skincare, something that was, historically either more for women or just less of a priority for guys taking care of themselves, what we found was that the brands that were coming out and kind of modifying their sales strategy to those buying habits were taking an approach very similar to what they did for their female customers. And so they were offering very, complex routines, 5, 6, 7 steps a day. Women are used to wearing makeup, but guys want something very lightweight on their face. And so they were delivering these products that kind of were heavier, kind of creamier texture. And one thing that we're just super passionate about, and we'll get into more throughout this episode, I'm sure, is just if you listen to what the customer wants, if you're super in tune with what the customer wants, and also if you actually solve a problem in your life, we couldn't find a product we actually liked, the rest of the business should be able to take care of itself. There's obviously plenty of problems that come up through that, but we were just super focused on finding out what guys actually wanted, why they weren't buying these products that we knew existed, kind of isolated our value prop from that and started the R&D process But like I said, we're still best friends, live in LA together, only a couple blocks away from each other. And I think the friendship has been like the key driver in being able to be successful. And Kevin always talks about this and will later, but we're just very thankful to have each other as friends and also business partners. And that's kind of like the initial story to Pretty Boy.
That's absolutely amazing. And Kevin, when did you get started with the brand? When did you had the idea exactly, and when did you kick things off?
Yeah, so like Ben said, we've thrown a million ideas out there, and we launched about just over a year and a half ago, but we actually started this 3 years ago. We took our time, and obviously, with skincare, it's a little different than a lot of industries. It takes a little longer to get a product to launch. We took about 2.5 years to really nail the product, and then also it just took a while to find the manufacturer, and then it takes just about 6 months to even, once you finalize everything, just to get going, get all the raw materials. So it definitely takes a little bit of a longer process than some other goods, but yeah, it's been a blast. And I think something that Ben touched on too is just kicking things. It's easier than ever to start your own business now with all of the applications, and you got AI, and even from when we started 3 years ago, just it's never been easier to get started. And you really do just have to start, but being very intentional with the product. I know sometimes skincare, if you actually look into it, and especially for men, it's more saturated than you think. But we would just say to the listeners, like, don't let that deter you. Sometimes, you either find like a really white space where nothing's been done, and you create something completely new, or you can also look at if a market is super saturated, then that means that there's room for innovation, which is kind of where, we fell into, like, all right, skincare is a very saturated space, but the way we're approaching it is completely different, and that means there's room for innovation, and we're starting to find success that way.
Okay, but for two young guys that are starting their first ecom business, that's super interesting, because most of the people, what they're doing is they're taking the drop shipping product, or they're taking a product that's already done, or it just needs a little bit of finesse, and then you get it started. So what was going through your mind when you were researching the product, and when you decided to do something like that? What were the steps that you took in terms of development that were super important to even launch this?
Well, I think like one place that my mind goes there, and Kevin will kind of piggyback off of this, and then I can move into your question about product development, is we've both always been like, we're consumers at heart. Okay. When we were younger, we were obsessed with watching Super Bowl ads. Like, it was the most fun part of the year. The brands that we've had in our lifetime that really resonated with us, like, we still are loyal to those brands. Customer service, like, I still remember the first time I bought a pair of shoes from Zappos, and they like gave me a return really quickly, and I was like, wait, this is like the coolest thing ever. And so I think like there's two different answers to your question. One, and this is kind of where Kevin will chime in, is we knew that for us to actually really have fun, like, we're not just in it, and I know it sounds cliche, we definitely are in it for the money because we need a living. But for us, it was really about creating a brand and creating a lifestyle. So for us, it would have been very difficult, I think, to do that in like a drop shipping method. It wasn't that we just wanted to start a company. We wanted to start a brand. As you look at starting the actual development process, that was, we've said this on a couple different times that we've done things like this. I know that neither of us would ever quit, and definitely not now. The closest we've ever come, or that I've ever come to being like, do we even have a shot at this, is the development process. Yep. Even though there's certain parts of it that can be easier than expected, like using a contract manufacturer and just bringing them, hey, this is the target, can you get us close? We went through so many bad labs early on doing R&D that were sending us just terrible samples, even when we really had isolated what we wanted. So that was kind of like one of the toughest processes, but throughout the rest of that, what it was, we just surrounded ourselves with smarter people. We always like to go into a room and be the dumbest in the room. We got a great team of cosmetic chemists, dermatologists that were advising us throughout the whole thing. And we basically just said, it was a very simple question. We want a product that can target the top concerns guys have. And we found that out through doing copious amounts of pre-market launch surveying. We want the product to feel this way. And we wanted to do what we say in one product or less. Guys wanted simplicity. It was really important for us to nail the texture, the simplicity, and the results. Once we kind of had that answer from the clinical people, yes, you can do that, then it was just about finding that right manufacturer. And once we found the right one, which came through a connection that Kevin's girlfriend had, it really expedited the process and made it a lot seamless. But yeah, I don't know, Kevin. I mean, any thoughts on the branding piece for us is just so huge, and where we wanted to go with like creating a lifestyle behind what we were delivering to our customers.
Yeah, kind of two parts to that. I mean, one thing is if you're going to start a business, you got to be willing to grind. We were calling China, we were calling all these places. Like it was tough just getting on the phone. Like we're not chemists by trade. I mean, we've been going to the dermatologist for over 10 years, but we didn't know how to make a skincare product. So you got to be willing to just grind. If you got to figure it out, that's part of being an entrepreneur. The other thing is so the brand is huge for us. Now it's funny is like we are focused huge on the brand, and Ben and I are kind of talking the way our kind of respective, skill sets are in the business. Ben's talking about brand, but that's kind of where I handle, and he's more in like kind of the operations. But it's kind of funny. It goes hand in hand. You talk about drop shipping or these private label products, and a brand can only take you so far. It is 100% what, it does keep people around, but the product itself is what keeps people around. And you have to go hand in hand with, an awesome brand, but also a great product. And, especially when you're putting something on your face, our thing was, we're not going to go private label and just some BS ingredients and formulations. Like, we're trying to do things differently. So we're not going to just come up with a basic creative product and just apply branding to it. Because like to us, like that will only take you so far. But what keeps coming people back, or like what keeps bringing people back, is like an awesome product. But then paired with that is a branding. So we did want to do something a little different. We wanted to be that Nike of skincare. Everything was either super science focused, which kind of makes you feel like you have a problem. Speaking from experience with eczema, and like having something on the counter that was like, is that a prescription? Like, what's wrong with your face? Versus, something that's more approachable for skincare, puts it in a medium men understand that they can, relate to, and feel more comfortable because it is a newer space. And then something that, we talk about the Nike of skincare, like aspirational, inspirational, Red Bull is a big brand people are talking about now. Like, we don't want people to just come in and, think, all right, this is just skincare products. It's like, what are we doing for our customers? Like, let's build this community. Let's be a resource for people. And it's kind of more that confidence. Yeah. We sell confidence, not skincare.
That's quite interesting. And for those people that are like right now in the middle of either starting a brand or they're doing the R&D, what are the steps that you took? And what would be the steps if you're starting from the get-go right now that you would take in order to start a brand like yours? So how to make things quicker for the people?
Yeah, one thing that we actually, and credit to Ben on this, that we did immediately and we wouldn't change is a lot of entrepreneurs have this idea in their head of like, this is the company I'm going to build, this is the brand I want, and let's just go do that. Obviously that's important, but what we did is, since we're super intentional of what the customer wants, because that's what's going to keep them coming back, getting a product the customer wants and how they feel, we were very intentional with surveying, like, what exactly do men want out of skincare? How many products do they want? What's their top concerns? Like, what's a price point? Like, we did all that in the front end. And once we had all that information, then we built the brand on top of that. And I think that's like one of the most important pieces. And, we got lucky that we kind of approached it that way, but it was the best thing for us versus like, let's come out with this branding and not, survey it. And we're actually like end up creating something that maybe not that many people want. Now we have to go back and do it again. Starting with kind of understanding your customer, the products, and exactly what they want, and building the brand off of that, I think was the first step we took, and the best thing that we could have done, and we'll probably continue to do.
Never want to live or operate in a vacuum or a tunnel or an echo chamber. Yeah. Like
was the moisturizer the first idea that you got for this product? Was it like, did you imagine that this was going to be the final product from the get-go?
Well, it was evolving. So one thing that's big in this space, and as a brand owner, is you want to be able to bundle. That's going to increase AOV. It's going to increase lifetime value, stuff like that. So it's very important to get to that space. For us, because we were bootstrapped, we had to make a choice early on, and thankfully Kevin just outlined. It was based on the survey data we did. Like, we knew that guys were not going to buy something that didn't work. So we had to make sure the quality was there. we had to make a decision, which is, do we either prioritize getting the full set out? So for us, our most important goal is that we get to the basic 3 steps that any dermatologist is going to recommend. That's a moisturizer, a cleanser, and then wearing some type of sun protection. We could have either launched all 3 of those at a lower quality because that's what we could afford, or we looked at some other brands. Summer Fridays was one that we leaned heavily on early on there because they had that hero product that kind of caused them their virality, and then they expanded beyond that. And we just said, let's not bite off more than we can chew. Obviously, also SPF is such a tough one to nail. We know that's going to be like our complete moneymaker. So for us, it was just kind of like, let's focus on quality. Let's focus on learning. Let's be patient, something neither of us are inherently. And let's just try to build this from the ground up, foundationally right. And I love what Kevin said there. And the analogy I sometimes make is like, when you look at the restaurant business, I think part of the reason why so many restaurants fail, aside from the fact that it's a really tough industry, is someone goes in and says, this is my dream restaurant and everyone's going to fucking love it if I build it the way that it's supposed to be. And for us, it was really important to say, trust our gut. Both of us have good guts and we balance each other's out, I think, because we both always have different intuitions and leanings and different skill sets. But trust our gut. We know what we would want as consumers, but just continue to relentlessly validate that in the market with our customers, and often do as much of that validation as possible before spending a penny on anything, so that we feel pretty confident that we're at least making the right decision earlier in the process than if we were just kind of shotgun approaching everything.
That's quite interesting. How did you, because you mentioned a few times already that you conducted surveys prior to launching. How did you do that? What was the process there?
It's funny. A lot of people ask that, especially because we've gotten such good hit rates on them. We use SurveyMonkey. It's free. Everyone should be doing SurveyMonkey or Google Forms. Super easy, very free. All of them can go in your automated flows.
How did you choose your audience, and where did you find the right people to actually have valuable data?
So for the first one, our most impactful one, we legitimately, it's a volume game, just like anything else. We hit up every single person that we knew. Please take this survey. And then if you really like us, please send it to like 5 to 10 of your friends that you think would maybe take this. Because another thing was, get outside of our circle. So whereas our circle of feedback is really important, we wanted to get like 1, 2, 3, 4 layers outside of that. That first survey, which led a lot of these decisions, although it's nothing monumental, I mean, we ended up getting like 350 responses. It's a validated data set. And then from there, we put a lot of our surveys into campaigns and email flows, and we just continuously try to pump out surveys that we can get more and more information that can lead us to the next kind of decision. So incentives work too. But for us, we were really lucky that Kevin and I are both personal guys. Good. We value personal relationships. So I think our friends know that if we're coming to ask them for help or for their assistance or something, they felt, hey, we want to help them out.
And I think too, like one takeaway that we've like learned from this is like the entrepreneurial community is so willing to help, because everybody's been in your position where you're just starting out. Like now we've talked to people that are worth like 8-figure, 9-figure, running massive brands that will just take 30 minutes to talk to us. And I bring that up because like surveying, like when we first started, you might think like, God, no random person is going to want to take this survey. But when you send it to a friend, he probably has a group text of a bunch of other friends that you have no idea because he went to a different college. And everyone, it's cool to start your own business now. Like Elon Musk makes it super cool. Like instead of throwing a wedding party, engagement party, throw I just started a business party. And the hit rate's actually way higher than you think of just one, you just got to do it. But hey, my friend's starting a business. He would love for you to take this 5-minute survey. Like we didn't think that many people would want to do it. Everyone's like, oh, that's fucking awesome. Like, yeah, I'll take it. And you just got to really send it out and have your friends help. And it's a lot easier than you think.
Okay. That's a great idea for everyone that's like listening to us right now. And even if they already have businesses, if they're starting a new product, then that's something that they probably should be doing as well, not only for their existing customers. And having that in mind, you found a factory, a manufacturer, you found a good way to actually create the product. I'm not going to ask you about the formula, but you already have this. And you're ready for launching. Take me through your steps of launching this brand, and what was your initial marketing funnel in order to get it from, hey, we don't really have much money, to, hey, we're actually making it profitable?
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of that is credit to Kevin, and so yeah, I mean, we always wait to see who's going to answer something first, just so we don't talk over each other. So I'll let him take over here. But a lot of it's credit to Kevin, like you said, like he's a uniquely talented person in kind of creative vision and in just having like kind of what I call like an inherent cool factor that expands beyond just like himself. Like he kind of is in touch with things that are right and things that are cool in the space. So early on, like because we were bootstrapped, every dollar counts, and he can walk through the tactical steps. But for us, it was heavily word of mouth, and then started the paid funnel acquisition. And Kevin, I mean, you can walk through what we did early on there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think too, and we've even had some learnings because I mean I'm not like a marketer by trade, so like in the scheme of things, like we did save money compared to a lot of shoots that what a lot of people do, and we're still using the content from that like almost 2 years later. But there's still easier ways to launch a brand and really not even spend as much money as we did. But I mean, initially we started with, I mean, as far as like the branding and everything, you know, we noticed that there wasn't much of a lifestyle presence within skincare. The lifestyle brands, like we always like to look at brands that we love, like Nike or like popular brands outside of your industry. I think that gives you a good view on what's working. And we wanted to apply a lot of these kind of lifestyle trends that were happening in clothing to skincare. But you still have to have that clinical, you know, presence, which we've noticed because a lot of the brands were either heavily kind of more trying to push the lifestyle and not clinical at all. And like in order to win and grow this to $1 billion company, you have to have the clinical community backing. So we kind of wanted to be that first like clinically lifestyle brand. But the way we started is, you know, as most entrepreneurs, is you got to kind of, you know, scrape and claw and try to get things done, be a little more what's the right word? Scrappy yeah. With the content. And you know, you got to look at your resources. We had a friend that was a awesome videographer. We flew him out. We live in LA. We used all of our friends as models, and thankfully they were good looking or played sports in college. We used a friend's house. So we do ways, you know, you do things to really cut down on budget and launch that. And then as far as like actually going out to get customers, the big part is that, you know, a lot of brands, you can either go the organic route or just talking with mentors, which we highly suggest, just reaching out and trying to talk to people as much as you can to get advice. We went the paid acquisition route on Meta. Obviously, as a two-man team, you really got to kind of focus on one. You know, we tried in the beginning sometimes to focus on too much. The goal is to get awesome at one and then expand. So we went the paid acquisition route for Meta. Once we got all the content, kind of started to put together a strategy on, you know, it really is just testing, and we're still learning a lot there too, but it's just constantly testing to see what works. And then just like some quick learnings, like even on the shoot we did, which is great that we still have some of this lifestyle content. You can really just do a lot with your iPhone. Like one of our best ads was just me doing a comparison with my iPhone in my house. There's a lot of platforms now you can send your product in to get good shots. So I think even now with our next product launch, we might pull back a little bit and focus more on just a lot of like iPhone content. You can reach out to influencers and, you know, get content for them. Like UGC crushes it. So just, I would say, like, don't think, you know, you look at these brands sometimes and try to compare yourself to them and they're running like $30,000 productions, and it's just not necessary. The goal is to make money. The goal is to be able to sell the value of your product. A lot of times these ads don't necessarily have to represent your brand. The goal is to click into your website, which then showcases your brand, your story. And you can do that way more affordably than you think.
Yeah, I had this conversation with Alex Fedotov, who is like big in the ecom world at the moment, and he told me I've never had a situation where a $10,000 video is working better than a $50 UGC one, and that's typically the case. And in your world, when you launched, did you start it with Facebook ads? What was like the first paid ad channel?
We started with Facebook. That's still our primary source right now. You know, we're starting to experiment a little bit with like TikTok, some podcasts, like sponsorships. Like we're kind of at a point where, all right, let's see, you know, how we can acquire customers a little more cheaply. But Facebook's still our primary source. And to your point though, like the UGC, like, I mean, the goal right now for us, we're trying to kind of elevate the brand a little bit more to what our vision is, but authenticity is like the biggest thing, and people can kind of see through a lot of the bullshit. So sometimes in your funnel, like the high quality ads might fit in a little bit, but realistically the kind of authentic reviews, the UGCs end up doing better, especially in our category for skincare. You got to have, we knew men in our survey data, like one of the questions was asking like, you know, what they look for. And a lot of it is like reviews, before and afters. Like if they're going to put something on their face, they want actual feedback and to know that this product they're buying is going to work.
What's your demographic, and how did you choose your demographic?
It's an interesting question. The demographic that we targeted to start was, we thought it'd be like 18 to 25-year-old males. Again, I think because of the lifestyle component Kevin's talking about, because we're younger guys who are younger now are way more open to doing this stuff. What we've seen is actually, our demographic still has a good amount of people in that 20 to 25 range. One of our biggest channels has been like the 35 to 44. And I think what's interesting is, and this is so indicative of just how guys' brains think. Guys are so reactionary and reactive to what they do. So we solve problems when we have the problem. We don't look ahead and be like, oh, what's a problem I'm going to have in the future, and do things to kind of try and take it head on. So I think what we're seeing is a lot of guys who are at the age now where they're going, damn, I really regret not doing some of this stuff. I'm starting to age. You know, with guys, your collagen levels start dropping off at the age of 30. That's what makes your kind of wrinkles more prevalent and get like saggier skin. I just turned 30 this year, so I'm hoping our product can serve as a testimonial to the anti-aging piece. But so that demographic for us, what really is interesting is it extends across a wide range of people. And when we just did another recent survey, this was a smaller data set, a little under 100 people. The thing that stuck out the most about our brand, and this was where that demographic age-wise held true, is the emphasis on product quality. And so I think that like from a way we show the brand, we're going to always continue to prioritize staying on trend. So that's going to maybe lean slightly younger in the way that we show the brand. But the way that we message the brand and the focus that we put on product development is always going to lean so heavily into making sure it works and the quality. And I think that what you're seeing from the customers who do respond to our surveys is that they just want a really good product, and those people understand the importance of skincare. And so now that they've found us, we've created lifelong customers out of them. Just trying to find who are more people that fit into that. It's definitely difficult to isolate a very specific demographic in terms of, say, targeting. But it's interesting to see who the most loyal people are. Do tend to be a little bit older, and I think that it's because they've hit that point where they're like, damn, I wish I would have done this sooner.
And they probably have even bigger effects because of it. They care about it more. And having that in mind, what were the keys into your success initially? Like, what did you do in terms of ads that brought you to profitability immediately? Because you could have just wasted your 1.5 years of preparation with being unprofitable from the get-go. So what did you do very right? What was the winning formula for you initially?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're still, really diving into like how to really blow it up on Facebook. Because like Ben talked about it, we have this AOV, thing. We only have one product. So, our ads are doing pretty well, but we're still trying to find that one formula. Can we crack it with just one product? I mean, it's doing well, but obviously you see these brands that are doing like 6 return on ad spend. Like it's crazy sometimes. So I'd say it's still a learning process, but like what's worked the best for us is, like you mentioned, is the UGC. So we ended up, once we kind of found a couple different winning, hooks, winning, kind of ad format or video format ads, which has been kind of the UGC that have come off more authentic. We've started to really lean into that, and that's when the performance has started to really go up for us.
Yeah, and okay. I think one thing to add on that, just for the full transparency piece, open book, we were not first order profitable, and we have not been historically. What it is we actually have such a good product that people do come back and return. So we are spending unprofitably at first purchase, or have historically been doing that. If you pay attention to e-com right now, you know that there is a very healthy debate going on around cost caps being a profit driver, or do you just scale? What we're trying to find is a healthy in between. We do need to increase our LTV, so we need to focus on retention. We have about 35% of our business is repeat customers, and they have like an average revenue of $150. But we also have about 65% who are one-time purchasers. So what we're trying to figure out is, is it a pricing thing? Is it like, one of the pieces of feedback we get is that our bottle, the price is fine. We acquire them on that first acquisition, but the price for the bottle and how long it lasts, which is about 30 days right now, I think might be causing some of that drop off. And so, like Kevin said, we found certain angles. Like we know like anti-aging works really well. And like specifically there's a hook like avoid saggy skin has performed very well for us. So we know the topics people care about. What we need to do is increase the velocity at which we test new creatives. Those creatives do need to be leaning towards first order profitability, but we still do have some room to spend a little less profitably on acquisition. And then what we need to figure out is that retention pathway. So how do we convert more of those 65% closer to that $150 LTV and then go up to a $200 LTV? Kevin mentioned the other products. Like once we can bundle, I think it's going to do really, really solid things for us. But for right now, full transparency, like we have not operated under first order profitability. It's something we recently have started to drive closer to. And to Kevin's point, the strategies he's implemented on Facebook, using cost caps in some ad sets, not in others. We've started to see on-platform metrics rise. That has come at lower orders overall over Facebook, but those orders are generating us money. And now we're trying to really, really, really focus on that retention channel.
And honestly, like that was going to be my next question in regards to retention, because every single brand that's in the skincare industry, it needs retention. And what you mentioned initially that, hey, we focus on the product and make sure that the product is actually good. 35% retention is amazing for a brand like yours, especially while you're scaling, because you're like a year and a half into the business. You're not 3 years into the business and having a huge customer base where you're like, hey, I'm just going to focus on retention and make all my money out of it. So having that in mind, just as another e-com store owner, I would say, hey, that's amazing. And your figures in terms of like lifetime value so far from those people, because that's not something that you've done for 5 years. It's a lifetime value of for just a year and a half. That's absolutely amazing. So how did you get started with retention, and what did you focus on in terms of retention to make sure that people are buying again and again?
I mean, first and foremost, a couple things. One, subscriptions for us are huge. Anyone in this space knows that. So our subscription channel has done very well. We do get people who stay. We'd like to increase the average duration of time. So right now, the average duration of time is like 190 days. We'd really like to see that. It's good, but again, when you're looking at this is even to the $150 LTV, that's for repeat customers. So our actual LTV and our 60-day LTV are significantly lower.
Yeah.
Subscriptions are a great channel for that. We just recently partnered with Skio. We left Recharge. Skio so far has been really good. I feel comfortable plugging them. Honestly, the best part about them has been their support. They offer some really unique things you can do, like surprise and delight. So we're going to start implementing like, hey, what is the right time to hit a subscriber with a good offer to make sure that then they want to extend that subscription by another month or another 3 months. On top of that, we didn't talk about this in the early channels. I think one thing we've been amazed at, we've talked to a couple founders, is some people have been slower to adopt email and SMS early in the journey. For us, we were on email right away. SMS came pretty quickly after. Those are phenomenal for retention. I mean, that's owned traffic. Like that is in effect free. Klaviyo more so than SMS, but it's in effect it's a very high return channel. So we've been really hammering those, trying to optimize our flows. We recently partnered with another retention software that so far seems to be pretty cool. They use machine learning to predict, hey, what's the right time to send this customer an email? They have an automated flow that goes out for that, and that's either repeat buy or convert to subscribers.
So you quit on Klaviyo?
No, we're still using Klaviyo. This just integrates with Klaviyo.
Okay.
The platform's Relo. So far, it seems cool. We just haven't. We're in our trial period, so I can't tell you what the overall impact has been. But I think for the initial focus on retention, it was just making sure that we were continuously hitting people with content in the email channels, in the SMS channels. We know we have a quality product, so again, now we got to figure out some pricing stuff for that. Now I think our focus is going to be really optimizing any of our automated flows, making sure that people are getting hit with the right message at the right time just to get them back in.
Really speaking about this, like what actually brings retention back? Because everyone's right now doing email flows. Like everyone's having some type of a strategy on Klaviyo, and that's okay. However, what's actually bringing people back in terms of emails? What do they need to see again? Do they just need a reminder, or they want to know more? And what's that more in your case?
We'll give you the answer on the reminder in another month or 2 months. If you want to follow up with us, we'll share the data from that repeat buy software we implemented.
Yeah.
I think that again, for us, we need to do more price testing. What we see is that people, when we give offers, whether that's 20% off or like a BOGO has done absolutely rock solid for us.
Yes.
People do come back. So it's an incentivizing offer. That being said, as anyone who owns a brand knows, you do not want to become the discount brand. So you don't want to just become the brand that only gets people back when you offer them an incentive. So what we're trying to figure out is like, is our on-platform customer-facing pricing not in line with what's going to make more people stay loyal with just like the values in the eyes of the beholder. So if our product is not generating you to come back at its normal price point, we need to figure that out. And that's what we're testing right now. But for us, incentivizing offers closes the funnel frequently of zero purchasers. And then for those people who've bought once or twice, clearly haven't adapted it into a daily practice, if they get hit with a 25% off coupon as part of a holiday special or a BOGO, they'll load up. But then that becomes a margin game, and you don't want to be that discount brand. Like our product is too valuable to be a discount brand. We just have to get the right messaging for the value to price.
And I think something we just kind of touched on and circling back to what we talked about in the beginning, like at the end of the day, like you can do all these things and it's important to have the flow set up right, the perfect offer, you got your hooks and your subject lines to click them in, like, and you'll figure that out just through testing. But if the product's shit, people aren't going to come back. Like it makes it way easier when the product's rock solid. If you love the product, think about how many emails you get in a day. Ben and I both have separate emails that we just have like we put them in so we don't get flooded with emails. And obviously you don't want to do that in your email flow. Our big thing is being a resource. So making sure everything we're posting, you're providing value so people want to open it. That's why our open rates have been so high. But at the end of the day, it comes by creating a good product. Like that makes it way more easier to get people to come back.
I had this conversation like a month ago with on the first episode of season 2 with Charles Trenner the fourth, who is like a great Facebook expert, and he was like, "Hey, I'm working only with brands where we want to do like on Facebook. We don't want to be profitable on the first purchase, but I make sure that they're only brands that are great in terms of businesses, because I really just care about the lifetime value of the customer, and I'm making sure that we're profitable on the lifetime value." So that we can scale the hell out of the brand. And what you just mentioned is like proving this, because you basically wouldn't be profitable and it wouldn't be like a success story right now if the product was, let's say, mediocre, not terrible, but mediocre. Probably you wouldn't be successful today with your brand.
No.
And I would say too, it's just like with Facebook, like gone are the days like a couple of years ago before the iOS update where you could acquire customers so easy. Like it is tough to acquire a customer first order profitable. It's not impossible, but it's extremely tough. A lot of businesses, because they can bundle, like honestly don't even operate in first order profitability. Yeah. But so just know that with Facebook now, it is a lot harder. But if you got a rock solid product and got everything set up on the back end, it obviously, it is possible for sure.
What are the top 3 mistakes that you've done while operating the business? What were like the biggest shits that you've had in your business so far?
Should I guess what Ben's going to say?
Go ahead. Let's see.
Yeah, I think Ben's first one is going to be over-ordering. Did I hit it?
Over-ordering. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I think the biggest mistake to date, so everyone knows, and this is the thing. I mean, probably in our intro story, I could have let this off. Like Kevin, like he said, not a marketer by trade, but learning on the fly. I got a C+ in college accounting, and it was an intro to accounting course. So I don't know pretty much jack diddly about finances. And I think that as you learn the importance of the cash conversion cycle, like we recently negotiated with our manufacturer that we're going to pay 100% on delivery. Up until this point, we were doing 30% for order, 70% at delivery, and we have a 6-month lead time. So on a $100,000 order, we are out $100,000 in cash before we take a penny in. Our cash conversion cycle was at like 179 days or something like that.
Are you producing in the U.S. or you're having it manufactured elsewhere?
It's in the U.S. just with our product.
And 6 months of lead time.
It's tough, man. So to Kevin's point, one of the biggest mistakes was it was a twofold mistake. One, not understanding the cash conversion cycle enough to make a good decision. Secondly, and a mentor told us this 2 days after we placed the order, your product is so cheap, cost of goods. It's not like cheap, but it's a low. We're not building a car.
It's a high margin
So,
business in general. That's normal
Exactly.
for skincare in general. Yeah.
So what we did was we placed a 25K unit order because we thought that the 50 cents we would get in savings was worth it. Finally, we can order at a quantity that gets us savings. And then the next day, this guy is like, dude, your cash is so important to you at this stage. Order every month 10,000 units if you have to, whatever it is, but do not do that. So I think that was the biggest error that we've had, and unfortunately it caused some really stressful months when that bill was coming due. You can't scale as fast. You can't market as aggressively. That would be, I mean, that's truly in terms of mistakes we've made. I think that, and the only other one I would say, but it's combination of mistake, and this isn't even being cocky that we haven't made a bunch of mistakes. I just think that we're so perfectionist that we've avoided big mistakes because we're a combination of perfectionist and conservative enough, like we know the foundational elements that are important. But the other one that I would say is, and it contradicts something we already said, but we haven't tried enough things. So we've been a little slow to try certain things, like landing pages. It's taken us way too long to start having a landing page strategy. I think that for us, just testing different things is a mistake. But again, I think to Kevin's point, and we both agree with each other on this 100%, like become a master at one thing first and then expand. I just think, unfortunately, like Facebook is almost like a black pit for that. Yeah. You can't hack mastering it. So like if you're setting that as your one thing to master, that's a lifetime journey versus if we were like, Facebook's always the priority we have to master, but like let's pick simultaneously to Facebook one other thing to master that is actually masterable. I think that's another thing that we maybe fell a little short on, but again, everything happens for a reason, and we're doing the right things now. Like nothing has sank our business, even the bad order, so we're fine. We'll be okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we're going to be good. And then it's going to end up saving us too, because we're going to go crazy and probably sell a ton, and we're going to be like, wow, now it's nice to actually have this. We don't have to wait 6 months. But the third thing for us, and I would say it's kind of a two-part, just because we've kind of got to this point and learned to like, all right, like we were able to build a great product. People love it. Like you got to trust your gut more. Is fucking agencies. Most agencies are dog shit. Let's just be honest.
Yes.
Like they're there to grab your money, churn and burn. That's just kind of the model. It's obviously tough when you get in. Like they can be beneficial, but you have to be the one that's in charge. Like these are the metrics I have to hit, and you got to do this. And if you can't hit it, then we're moving on. Because like they can be beneficial. Big brands that we talk to still use agencies because you can kind of run a lean team and you can kind of outsource stuff. So that makes sense. Like you don't want to overhire like a lot of these tech companies and then fire a bunch of people. Yes. But early on, starting out in a business, you don't need an agency to do most stuff. You can learn Facebook. Like I'm running our Facebook ad account. I could have just been doing this the whole time instead of spending money on an agency fee. You can hire somebody. Upwork we use a lot for like designers. You can find Facebook marketers and Google marketers, and you could just say like, hey, you're going to do a weekly audit. It's going to take you at the spend you're doing probably as a new business, like 1 hour a week to just make sure I'm doing things right. And it's just better for you to learn too. So when you do pass it off, you can kind of tell the agency, this is what we want. But we went through 3 agencies thinking that they were just going to absolutely crush it out of the park. We didn't really understand possibly the impact on first order profitability with a product at our price point, how difficult it would be. And then also too, a lot of times you're like, well, they've been doing this for 5 years. Like they know more than me. They've been doing this for 10 years. They know more than me. And you kind of lean into them. So like the 2-part to that is like, don't do agencies right away. You can figure it out. And to lean on your gut of like, this is what we want and this is how we're going to do things. Cause you do know your brand inside out. It takes an agency to really understand it. It takes a while. And so kind of just, wear the pants in that relationship, which I was kind of bad about in the beginning, to be honest.
You basically
I think just one more continuation.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just one more continuation on that is I think like the biggest challenge with an agency is that they can very easily become a crutch, and Kevin alluded to that. So yes. I think like once you're paying them that money, you're like, well, this is your job. Let us go focus on other things. So I think right now what we've been really focusing on is systematizing a lot of a lot of the things we do. So coming up with an actual creative testing process, coming up with actual metrics that we're going to hold ourselves accountable to that make sense for the business. An agency is always going to tell you like, well, here, if you spend more, you're going to make more gross revenue.
That's not true.
Eventually the P&L is going to balance itself out. That's not true. Like if the creative's not good, if you're not achieving results on platform, they're going to say, oh, attribution is so messed up. You can't trust anything on platform. It's like, yeah, parts of that are true, but
it's
you
mostly
still
excuses.
do any. Yeah, it's just any good business has goals. So like for us, it's like we now know what our break even on Facebook has to be.
Yeah.
If we're not hitting it because of attribution, tough shit. Like at the end of the day, other people are able to hit that metric on Facebook with what the Facebook is going to attribute. So like you have to look at it as with anything. You can look at a blended ratio of metrics, but on each platform, you have to have some way of saying on this platform, are we succeeding or not? And so I think we've leaned on some of the agencies as crutches more than we should have. And I think now this is a good lesson in like the agency works for you. You have to give them very clear guidelines, metrics, hold them accountable. You have to know what works and what you want them to do. And then they're more on the hook. But I think to Kevin's point, like we as founders have to take 100% ownership and accountability of all these things. And that's something that we've learned the hard way of wasting money, but we've learned things in the process. So again, like nothing we've done yet has sank our business. If we had to turn off every single paid channel tomorrow, we still have inventory and we have a really fat email list. Like we're fine. It's about learning. And I think we both like to stumble, a couple times because that's when you do learn. Like take a face plant, you learn from it, you grow thicker skin, literally. And, that for us has been a big win.
And honestly, I'm going to say that also as an agency owner, because Marketemics is an agency, I am a successful ecom brand owner myself. But something that you absolutely nailed, and I completely agree with you, because if your agency is there just to manage your ads or just to manage something that you're outsourcing to them, then that's shit, and you don't really need them because the fee is way too high to just have a manager there. If that agency is not systematizing your work and is not pushing you to do more stuff, to do more creative testing, to systematize your creative testing, and to learn more about your business than you would yourself, then you're facing a problem and you don't really need them. You probably need a freelancer for that just to outsource work. So if you're outsourcing just some type of a work, then you just need freelancers for that. You don't really need agencies.
Yeah. I take that back to all agencies are shit besides Victor's agency.
Thank you, but hey, you know what? And I actually tell that to people. You know what? If we do have the red flags that we're just talking about agencies, fire us as well. Because you know what? That should be the case. Because our agency is going to go to shit if we don't really deliver results. And one of the things that we're doing always is that, hey, if we're not bringing value, we're the people that are going to say, hey, we're not going to work on this and we're not going to take your money. But that's another story. It's not here to advertise the agency or whatever. Guys, I wanted to ask you for hires. And I was going to ask you for your worst hires, but I can definitely guess which were your worst hires now. But what was the best hiring or contracting or whatever thing that you did that absolutely... broke some type of a bottleneck in your business?
It's still just Ben and I. So like, we don't really have anyone else on the team. Obviously, we outsource certain things. This is just our best hire was being able to find our contract manufacturer, I would say, because they're the one that helped us get the product. Like manufacturing's so tough. Like, the reason it takes 6 months, even though we're out of Jersey, it's formulated there, but you have to source raws all over the world to make the formula. So that's what causes a delay. But luckily, it just happenstance that my girlfriend.
But they do it for you.
Yeah, it just happenstance that we were able to get connected to this awesome manufacturer team who's been in the industry for a long time, and thankfully, we came prepared to the meeting because we're just two kids with a brand that hadn't even launched yet, and they bought in, and they don't take customers, that often. It's strictly word of mouth. So we were able to show up and kind of earn that business. But that's probably been the best for us because they've definitely been a guiding resource within the industry. But also, we're fortunate, like they were able to nail the product we wanted.
And then I think on top of that, two things. One, we recently found a content writer. What's really good about that is going back to this, like Kevin and I we know our brand, but when you're so in the minutia, so even about talking about products, talking about skincare stuff, we're so in the minutia. We could go really deep on ingredients and why our product's so much better. The average person who hasn't spent 3 years researching all this stuff doesn't care. So finding someone who can really align with us is part of our demographic. Our guy Dom is the man. He understood us from kind of day one. Having someone who even just like for example, last week me and Kevin both wrote our own brand manifesto. Then we reviewed them together. Then we sent them to Dom. And it's like, hey, here's the words we want to use. This is what we want to tell. But can you turn this into, take yourself outside of us, be an unbiased outside party. So I think a content writer is really good also because it does have implications to SEO, a lot of revenue channels. So like that's been really important. And then the other one is like we have a mentor. His name is Sean McGinnis. He's pretty big in the e-com space. We met him at a conference. Sean has been invaluable, and we currently are in like a paid consultancy mentor relationship with him. Again, having someone, like I said, we always want to be the dumbest person in the room. So we're always looking to see who has done it before us, who's done it better, who has different ideas. Sean has been like invaluable to just having a sounding board who is invested in our success. And I think it begs the question of for you and any brands you've been involved with of like, when do you build out the team in various different types of equity formats so that you really get people invested in your success for a return? But for Sean right now, like he'd be a, hire. And he's been amazing to have that just outside. I think for us, it's all about trying to find outside perspectives who bring value beyond, again, the strictly managed relationship of like, hey, do this for me. These are people who say, hey, we need help with this. And they provide their own unique perspective. And it's based on their experience and success.
Guys, I just really want to congratulate you on everything that you've done because you're so lean. You've taken complete advantage of your network around you. You didn't bypass any of the steps. You just, you started a brand based on like so much R&D. You wanted to make a really great product and you did it. You started off against a whole industry that's investing billions of dollars every single year into selling and like so many types of skincare. You made it and you're growing it and you're setting an example for everyone because that's the right way to do it. And based on what you just said, because the people that are watching us are typically 7 and 8 figure e-com brand owners, and many of them are having mentors or are trying to find a mentor. What are the questions that they should be asking themselves when they're finding a mentor?
I mean, I think, and Kevin definitely agrees. He likes beer even more than I do. I think the first question for anyone is like, would you sit down and have a beer with them? We knew that like with Sean, like if you enjoy BSing with them, you can't have conflict right out of the gate. You can't have differing, like you've got to be personable with the person that's going to mentor you. They've got to like you. Otherwise it's going to be a really transactional relationship.
Yeah.
I think the other questions you've got to ask yourself is just truly, what is the gap that I'm facing the most? And who is the right type of person? So for us, a lot of our gaps at that time were operational. Sean he's been a CEO at a couple different companies. He has extensive affiliate, SEO, advertising experience. So we knew that we needed an operationally driven person. And so going and finding a key operator who's had success, we knew the businesses he'd been involved in. So I think, do they pass the would I have a beer with them test? What gap do they fill specifically for you? And then what do you actually need out of them so you can level set exactly what the expectations are of if we're going to mentor. Like Sean's great. We told him we're going to need help modeling some of this stuff. So like he was able to say, yes, I've built these models. I've built these trackers. Like what is the gap of knowledge and what is the tactical skill gap that's missing? Because if those two things can be filled and you would drink a beer with them, chances are they're going to be able to help you, especially if they have more experience than you do.
And that's a very different answer than most of the people that have asked have given me. Like, that's awesome. Absolutely awesome. Yeah. And Kevin, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think I appreciate the beer comment. That's a key one right there. So they got to be able to have a beer with you. But two, I think the big thing there is, have they had success before? I mean, how many people do we see on Instagram and social media and they're the new coach that hasn't fucking started shit? And I wake up at 4 a.m. and I meditate for 5 minutes and then I go run 10 miles and then I read all my emails and then I do self-learning and then this is how you run your business. It's like, you got to find somebody who's been there before. Like that's what we value. I'm not saying those people don't have knowledge, but who's been there before because they've likely faced the same issues. And, I mean,
the talking heads can get
people.
the talking heads can get really overwhelming, and you see something and you go, oh wow, like we've got to try this. And I think that's again where Kevin and I balance each other out so well is we both get really excited about certain things, and then the other one who has a more clear head at that moment will be like, wait, but let's take a second to think through this one. And I think those talking heads, they've always got their new strategy. But again, this is the world we live in, clicks, shares.
Yep.
So they're only motivated by getting people to absorb their content. They're not held to any sort of accountability of proof of results. And I think I think that's a great point. Like, have they been successful in a tactical, tangible way? Otherwise, if you see what some of these coaching programs cost, like they're thousands and thousands of dollars. And those guys usually aren't willing to really show you what they've actually done.
They almost never do it. I can say I've spent over like maybe $40,000 on such programs, and I can tell you that most of them are complete trash. And when you spoke about how you balance your out, like me and my business partner Blagovec, he's like way more conservative in terms of that, especially for any financial investments. And he has saved our business so many times because I'm having this crazy idea. Let's go for it. Let's do it. And then he's like, well, let's ask a few questions whether that really does something for our business or not. So that's amazing.
Well,
and I know that
we both love to spend money. So
maybe on different things. So that's why it's like balancing you out. And I know that you're having, you have to go in a minute, but just wanted to ask you this last question. What's the future of the brand, and what's your strategy of growing it in the next year and a half?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the main focus too for 2024, and we're gonna hopefully do a little trip here. You got to look back and look at your successes. Sometimes you get your head down and don't necessarily enjoy what you've done. So like definitely start incorporating that. But we're gonna hopefully take a little trip here and really plan out 2024. But the main goals right now is like, because we're so focused on profitability and getting money and everything, we've kind of almost not lost, but we weren't investing as much on building the brand, and building the brand is obviously so important to us and building that community. So I think next year is going to be a heavy focus on really talking the way we've always wanted to talk, showcasing and building that brand that we've always wanted to showcase to people. Because at the end of the day, that can end up, helping getting people in the door, helping people stick around, acquiring customers way less than having to spend money on ads. So it's going to be a heavy focus in really building that brand and that community.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think the thing I would add to that, because it's a great thing, is one thing we've got to do is stop comparing ourselves. It's so easy to look at other brands and see, well, where should we be based on what they're doing? At the end of the day, all we can focus on is where we are right now. I think Kevin's point about enhancing the brand is going to be extremely, extremely, extremely important to us. That's what's going to create that lifetime customer as well, like because they're going to see themselves in the brand more than just seeing a product. And then beyond that, like we have to. I read a book recently that basically made the contention that 10% net profit is the new break even. Yep. Right now, we even when we're profitable, we're running on life support from just like a cash flow management perspective. And so for us, it is going to go really, really heavy into how do we scale this brand profitably, even if it's less sexy. Like, we had our best gross revenue month ever last month, but we didn't do it at a profit. It's less sexy to scale by $1,000 every month. But if that's an extra $1,000 of profit, all of a sudden you're building up your war chest. And once you have a war chest, that's when you're able to do really fun things. And so for us, it's going to go back to the fundamentals, like a football, a sports reference, go back to the fundamentals, really focus on what is going to be an actual money-making opportunity, what's going to let us change our lives the way we want. Focus on that, and the rest of the stuff will come. If you seek the sexy metrics, oftentimes they're not actually indicative of where the business is at.
I'm writing this down. 10% is the new break even, because that's golden, in my opinion.
Yeah,
guys, you're so smart. What you do is so good. I can't wait for just to follow your success, follow your path, and follow your your failures as well, because I'm sure that everyone's going to learn from it so much. And I really want to thank you for joining the podcast. I have like 50 more questions for you guys, but maybe we can do it in a part 2 in 2024. And let's just keep in touch and do it. And honestly, wishing you nothing but success in 2024. You are an amazing example for all of us. And I am sure that you're going to be, the people that we're going to follow in the next years to come in our industry.
Appreciate it.
So again, thank you very much. And if you want to say just last few words for everyone who's like right now in the 7-8 figure e-com industry, your advice for them, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, my thing, we get asked this frequently, so mine's always the same. Just stay relentlessly customer obsessed. Never sacrifice what your customers actually want and what their experience is. If you figure that part out, I mean, we've had shipping problems over this year that guys have literally responded in our support email just saying, we always say, hey, we're a small company, yada, yada. And they're like, damn, like, we get it. This sucks, but you guys handle this so well that I will keep dealing with the BS until you figure it out, because you guys are good people. And then just get 1% better each day. That's what got us through some of those really long months earlier on. Just making sure that every single day, if you have a problem, just what's one thing you can do to just get a little bit further than you were that day. The compounding interest is a mind-blowing concept, and it absolutely applies to running a business. So those are my two things always.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Ben said. The only thing I would add is just strive to be different. I think that's something we're trying to work on. Stand out, be yourself, be authentic. You know, really just try to separate yourself as a brand. Like Ben said, not worry about what other people are doing. You know your community, invest in understanding your community, and then go out there and try to create products and messaging that represents them and just be different.
Amazing. Guys, everyone that's watching or listening to us, definitely follow Kevin and Ben and YoPrettyBoy, the success story that we just shared today. Follow us more on the 2 Ecomm Experts podcast. And stay tuned for more content in 2024.
Appreciate
Awesome.
you.
Thanks, guys.